Stream looks like it's live. Hello, everyone. If you're watching this very part of this right now, it's very likely that you are watching this as a recording later. But I hope that we're going to have some people join us live today. I hope that I'm going to help continue my own familiarization with the Starfinder system. I've been digging through it a little bit. It's not brand new, but it is newish as these things go. Starfinder is a tabletop RPG from the people who did Pathfinder, still do Pathfinder, I guess, which I have not played, but I have in the last couple of years gotten heavily into Dungeons and Dragons, playing 5e, and so that is the system that I am primarily familiar with. However, since I've gotten so into Dungeons and Dragons and RPGs in general, I've really been excited to learn about other systems as well. I've played around with Fate a little bit. I've played in a Cypher campaign, and one shots of a few things. Hey, Black Dragon, how you doing there? See you in the chat. I'm hoping to continue my learning about all of these different systems, and so Starfinder is one that definitely appeals kind of on the face of it to me. I like science fiction, and it's true that although Dungeons and Dragons 5e is a very flexible system in a lot of ways, and the books actually do have some suggestions for how you might incorporate science fictional elements. And a flexible rule system can allow for a lot of that sort of thing. But I also kind of like the idea of rules being built in to make sense that you don't have to, bend to the point of craziness in order to incorporate science fictional elements. And plus, I also just like world building in general. So Starfinder is I think conceptually it takes place thousands of years later in the same sort of universe as Pathfinder, but there's been a lot going on. There is some strange thing that they call the gap, where everybody in the universe seems to have completely lost any sense of their own history before a certain point, and nobody's quite sure why that happened. And then since then, there was also a strange signal that went out that gave basically every culture in the world the technology secrets to faster than light travel using something called the drift. And not every society was equally ready to use such a thing, but theoretically everyone could have it. And that's all pretty exciting. And there's some neat stuff about the drift in terms of things that you could build some campaign tension around, because the idea of the drift is that every time you make a jump using the drift, it tears a little piece of some plane of existence or other out of its original plane and into the drift. And so the idea is that when you're flying around in the drift, you might encounter all of these little pieces or chunks of the different planes of existences, and that basically, is simultaneously kind of a fun idea, but also like a way that you could have your characters from Starfinder encounter pretty much just anything you could ever want to, right? Well, so anyway, though, the primary goal of what I was wanting to do today, one of my favorite things in any RPG system that I've discovered so far is character creation. I just really enjoy that process. And so I've played around with it a little bit here in the Starfinder book, but I figured it might be fun to do a video on it. And so what I've got here is the PDF version of the core rulebook from Paizo, and you can buy that currently for $9.99 on their digital store. I also actually own the hardcover version right here, but for use on the video, of course, the PDF is simpler. And then I also have a character sheet created by someone named Schwar that I found online that is just, it's more or less the same character sheet from the core rulebook, but it's been just updated so that it has form fillable fields and various areas where it does the math for you, and so that's simpler. And this particular sheet that we've got here covers a lot of stuff. So obviously you can see this is a pretty complex character sheet compared to some role-playing games, and certainly more complicated even than Dungeons and Dragons 5e. Although, there's a lot of stuff to kind of cover, and we'll kind of walk through each of these bits as we go through the character. But we have this first page where we're primarily dealing with, our ability scores, skills, basic stats, armor class, saving throws, all of the things that you're going to be doing sort of most frequently. Then the next page here, we've got a place where you can just write your abilities, feats and proficiencies, armor, and so on. And we've got this armor spot here, but that actually bumps up and includes the armor class, updates the armor class. Then you list your equipment and so on. And then you can put spells here because this is I didn't mention this earlier, but it's science fiction, but it is also science fiction in a universe where the gods are real and there is also magic. And so I think that's kind of a neat idea. So there are spells, and also sometimes you have what are known as spell-like effects, meaning it's in universe, it's not strictly speaking magic, but mechanically it's treated like a spell. You have just a blank additional log page. And then some characters, some classes can have drones that you control, kind of like an animal companion, say, in Dungeons and Dragons. And so this version of the character sheet has a sheet for the drone as well, and then an additional log. So the character creation process as we go through the core book. First of all, there's a lot of really fun art in the book, and so I kind of I like, it's fun just going through and looking at it. But so as we start the character creation process, they suggest as step one here, create a character concept, and I think that that's, generally speaking, it would be the first step that you would do in character creation, but you kind of need to have some basic familiarity with the races and classes and themes available in order to make the concept at first. So I think what we're going to do briefly is do a high-level walkthrough of what races are available in this core rulebook. Excuse me. And classes as well. And then there's also themes, which is a bit like backgrounds from 5e, but I like some of the way that it's got some nice flavor in there. Okay, hey Mother Dragon, you are welcome to lurk from wherever you like, but glad to have you along. So in any event, let's look at some of the races from the Starfinder universe. Races. So as you can see from this page that has kind of just this high-level list, we've got, let's just go ahead and go through. So we've got androids, and that I think everyone kind of gets, what they can do, and their basic, from a mechanical standpoint. Let's not dwell too much on the mechanical differences of each race right now, so much as just kind of get a sense of what is included here. So we have androids, which I think everyone probably kind of gets, because what we're looking for right now is to get to a high concept so we can do our character concept. Mother Dragon says, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to get me up off my deathbed and tell you how wrong you are. Well, I hope it's not a deathbed, but I shall endeavor to be very wrong so that you will have to tell me. Humans, I think we get it, right? Kasathas. Now, one of the cool things about these guys is that they have 4 arms. And they also have this cultural thing where they think their mouth should always be covered. That's a thing, right? So 4-armed, originally from planet orbiting a dying star beyond the Pact Worlds. The four-armed Kasathas maintain a reputation as a noble and mysterious people, famous for their anachronistic warriors, ancient wisdom, and strange traditions. That seems fun. We got Lashuntas, and there are two versions of these guys. They've got there's the sort of taller, more agile ones, and then the stockier, more tough ones. And they've all got a little bit of magic that they can do and limited telepathy, these guys. Idealized by many other humanoid races and gifted with innate psychic abilities, they're consummate scholars and enlightened warriors, and they have sort of two subspecies. Shirans, look at these. These are like bug people. Once part of a ravenous hive of locust-like predators, player characters that are Shirans are individuals who have broken free from the hive mind, which is kind of a fun thing that you could include in your role-play concept for a character, right? You know, the idea of someone who used to be a part of a hive mind but now is an individual. That's gotta be, I don't know, exciting, right? Excuse me. Excuse me. So they become physically addicted to their own individualism. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of spit going down the wrong throat. Wrong pipe, I suppose. Okay, sorry about that. Then there's the Vesk. These are big dumb lizard guys. They're not necessarily dumb, but you know what I mean. You can see that their basic stats: plus strength, plus constitution, minus intellect. But they're big and strong lizard guys. And then the Yusoki, they're rat people. I mean, we don't want to beat around the bush. It's not subtle, right? So they are smaller, more agile, and there's a little bit of Rocket Raccoon going on in there. And so I think those are the basic player races that we have to choose from in our core rule book here. So let's talk a little bit about classes. So there are a variety of different classes. These are going to be a little more pages to flip through for each. So we've got the Envoy, which is none of these don't all have like a one-to-one obvious comparison with, say, classes from Dungeons and Dragons necessarily, but Envoy would probably be closest to something like a bard. The idea is, make your way in the universe with a charming smile, quick wit, and keen sense of self-preservation, getting others to do what you want. And you might be like an ambassador, or business person, or a con artist, and so those are the kind of, the basic high concept level there. And then one of the things that I really like actually about this rulebook is that for each class, it shows like 4 examples of builds that you could make using the Envoy class, and they're very different from each other, but it just shows the various different choices you might make for each. And so I think that's a pretty cool thing to include. Then you have the Mechanic. This is the one that I previously mentioned. You get like a little drone that you can make. Mechanic, I think probably people get it, and certainly in a sci-fi setting, you could imagine such a thing being much more useful and important than in a fantasy setting. That you might still have like a tinkerer or alchemist class, but it's in a setting where you're flying around in starships and engaging with computers and robots and stuff all the time. You can imagine a mechanic being a sort of a key, important sort of class to exist. Excuse me. All right. You have the Mystic. And Mystic kind of engages with some of the elements that you might associate with clerics or that sort of thing in a setting like you have a connection to something which is granting you mystical powers of magic and all of that sort of thing. That's the basic high concept here. And each of these, incidentally, have a number of subclasses that we'll get into in a moment. Oh, give me a drone! Welcome, Prince Justin. Then there's the operative, which I think we can all kind of imagine as being sort of the secret agent, super spy type. That's the basic concept there. I think we get it. Not to say that any of these classes can't be built into a lot of variation. I'm just trying to cover, the high level. So let me know, everyone, if you guys watching want to know more about any specific thing, let me know. But in the meantime, I'm just kind of breezing by the high concept stuff here so that we can form a high concept for our character and then build, and we'll get more into the details for whatever we pick. A Solarian is a little bit unusual. It's the stars guide the planets with gravity, create life with light and heat, and utterly consume worlds in supernovas and black holes. You understand that these acts of creation and destruction are not opposites, but rather two parts of a natural dualistic cycle, and you seek to be an agent of that cycle. And so it's kind of like another flavor of what could be like a cleric or a sorcerer type character, I think. And also one of the things is that they have some special abilities to, like, they do different things with their weapons, I believe. I actually haven't looked too carefully at this class yet. I don't off the top of my head know everything about it. So maybe that's a reason to try that one. We'll see. We'll talk about it a little bit. Soldier, I think we get it, right? And Technomancer, which is again, I think it's easy to sum this one up as it's someone who combines technology and magic, right? Seems straightforward to me. But again, these are all big ideas that you can build from. But I think that's all of the main classes that we have to choose from in here. But then we're also going to be choosing a theme, which I'll get back to here in a second. Trying to just scroll back up to there we go. So we have the envoy, mechanic, mystic, operative, Solarian, soldier, and technomancer. And then so we're also choosing a theme as we make our character. And character themes, as I was saying before, are a little bit like backgrounds in Dungeons and Dragons 5e, where there's a little bit of a mechanical effect, and in fact a little bit more than you get from the background in 5e. But a big part of what's important about the theme, I think, is helping you choose the flavor of your character and to think about what their backstory is prior to the start of whatever adventure you're going to take your character on. So as you see here, we've got ace pilot, bounty hunter, priest, scholar, icon, which I think is basically like celebrity, sort of, mercenary, outlaw, spacefarer, xenoseeker, and then themeless, which is essentially like not generic necessarily, but like it specifically says you don't fit neatly into any of the above categories, or you see yourself as a blank slate. And so obviously that one's intended to be a little bit more flexible. And then each of these has their own things that you get at various different levels. So you get an ability score mod and then various features at the different levels. And so those are the basic ideas. And so as we go back to the idea of we're starting our character, create a character concept. So first, I have obviously some of my own ideas, but I would be very interested if any of you in the chat have any preferences or any of those races or characters that you are interested in knowing more about and would want to see explored here. because I can make as many characters as I want of them myself. But if we're doing a video here, it's nice to have some interactivity. So, do any of those aliens or races, or themes or classes, any of those leap out at anybody that you want to see? And of course, it might take a little bit for you to get back to me, but in the meantime, we can just refresh we have the themes: ace pilot, priest, bounty hunter, scholar, icon, spacefarer, mercenary, xenoseeker, outlaw, themeless. Then races: androids, Lashunta, Shiran, human, Vesk, Kasathas are the four-armed ones, and Yusoki. Let's see. Priest Solarian who wanders the spaceways on the behalf of some goddess sounds intriguing. Sure, yeah, we could try that. Yeah, so that's a good idea. So that gives us a that's all right. That's all right. Hey, of the choices that we're making, any sort of race, so maybe what we can do is, if we're starting from this idea, if that's our concept, if our character concept, as they suggest, is this priest Solarian, right? Then let's maybe think about what race might make sense. Oh, well, and then of course Black Dragon is suggesting the Ratman, which were the Yusoki. So let's do it, Hey, I want to absolutely reward the interactivity, so we're going to do it. We're going to make a Yusoki priest Solarian. So let's see how that goes. So first, race. So let's go over to our character here. Now, I think that I arranged the screen here so that it would show the whole page, but if that makes it too small, like if you guys can't read this or something, let me know and I can maybe have it zoomed in instead. But so we put Yusoki up in the race thing up here on the top right, and then our our themes, we have priest, so we put that in the priest field. And then we'll figure out some of this other stuff as we fill it out. And then class, we're going to go with Solarian. All right, and we're starting at level 1. And the reason for the format here is that if you were to multi-class, you could put the other classes there. But so, per this procedure that they suggest here, we've got our character concept, right? We've made our characters. We've choose a race. And so let's look some more at the Yusoki race and make the appropriate changes to our sheet here. So this is the method that they tend to choose for how to apply all of this stuff. So we start right up at front here, that Yusoki starts with a +2 dex, +2 intelligence, -2 strength. So right here on our ability scores, all of these scores are very familiar to anyone who I think has used Dungeons and Dragons, or I think Pathfinder uses the same one. So we have strength, which is physical strength; dexterity, which is like agility and quickness; constitution is sort of how tough and resilient you are; intelligence is straightforward; wisdom, as separate from intelligence, is more about like observation and the ability to notice things around you and to make appropriate decisions based on that, rather than just having knowledge. And then charisma, which is like force of personality, right? So we have everything at 10, and so we're going to -2 from strength, +2 to dex, and then +2 to intelligence. So that's to start with. And so we're also going to note here this 2 HP. Let's talk just a little bit briefly about HP versus stamina in this game. The way that they deal damage in this game is a little bit different than Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm not as familiar with Pathfinder, so I can't really comment on the difference there. But the idea is that every character has both stamina points and hit points. And stamina points are essentially like the effort being expended to stop yourself from being hurt. And so getting someone hitting you and you depleting your stamina should really be interpreted less like, oh, I actually got shot in the shoulder, and more like, boy, I really had to work hard and exert myself to avoid getting shot just then, and I can't keep doing that forever. That's more like stamina. So any damage that you take comes off your stamina pool first, and then once your stamina pool is depleted, you start taking points off your hit points. And it's pretty easy to recover stamina, like a 10-minute rest and what's called a resolve point can let you recover your stamina. But hit points are harder to recover. They take longer. Sometimes you might need to get like actual medical treatment. I think that's kind of cool. I like that because obviously in Dungeons and Dragons, some of the way that works doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You kind of like just the idea that no matter how injured you are, you could have been on the verge of actually dying, but then you get a good night's sleep and you are 100% again. Like, doesn't really make sense. You kind of just have to accept it as an abstraction. But I like the balance of stamina versus hit points here. But we can see 2 is pretty low compared to well, I'm selecting stuff. Some of the other races get more to begin with. So as a base level, you get 2 hit points, and we're going to come to that in a moment because it combines with the class. And so you have 2 hit points. And then what are these other elements here? So you are small with the Yosoki subtype. So the size is small. And then I think I'm looking at this sheet, and some of that. Oh, the speed. I see. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, so. So what else do we have? Sorry, I'm just realizing my own. I'm gonna have to adjust this a little bit because I've made it small enough on my own screen that it's hard for me to read. Okay, that should be fine. Okay, so they're small. They can store up to 1 cubic foot of items in a cheek pouch, and that's kind of fun. They can transfer a single object between hand and cheek as a swift action, which is a little bit like a bonus action in D&D, meaning it's it's something you can do as part of a turn without taking your whole turn in a combat. Isoki can disgorge the entire contents of his pouch onto the ground in his square as a move action that does not provoke an attack of opportunity. Okay, so let's put that in our abilities bit here. So we can just say cheek pouches, 1 cubic foot. And we'll just leave it at that because you don't have to write all of the detail because you can always get it more. We've got dark vision as a Yosoki. Dark vision. 60 feet. Moxie. Yosoki have Moxie, which again really suggests there's a little bit of a Rocket Raccoon vibe going on here. Boy, that's a mouthful. Yes, indeed. Okay, so Yosoki are scrappy and nimble even when the odds are against them. A Yosoki can stand from prone as a swift action. Additionally, when off kilter, which is a combat mechanic, Yosoki does not take the normal penalties to attacks or gain the flat-footed condition, which is another combat mechanic. I don't think we're going to get too much into some of that stuff today. But basically, the high concept there is just that, like if you were sort of knocked off balance or surprised, enemies would normally get like bonuses to their attacks against you, and I guess they don't against a Yosoki. And when attempting an acrobatics check to tumble through the space of an opponent at least one size category larger than himself, Yosoki receives a +5 racial bonus to the check. So we can add that here. Moxie. Stand from prone. See, stand from prone is swift. No no penalty when off kilter, +5 to acrobatics to move through space of larger creature. All right, and then Scrounger, Yosoki receive +2 racial bonus to engineering, stealth, and survival checks. So let's put that on the skills here instead. Let's see. Yeah, yeah, a Yosoki soldier or mechanic perhaps. But would definitely be a rocket raccoon archetype. You could absolutely play it that way. I kind of like the idea. You know, this is something I was bouncing around in my head a little bit. Let me toss this out, and we'll resolve it more once we get there. But I kind of liked the idea of a Yosoki being sort of like a the mom friend character, like you know, almost go the opposite direction from Rocket Raccoon. But so let's see. So let's look at these engineering, stealth, and survival. Get a +2 racial modifier, which we would put in. You know, if we're looking at the skills, we have these. This is miscellaneous modifiers. What this column says, if you can't see it. So we've got engineering, which note engineering has this little symbol, which means it's trained only, and we'll get into that a little bit more when we assign our skills, what that means. But it essentially means there are some skills that you cannot even try to do unless you have some level of training in it. And that's something that I think is also really interesting in this technological setting, because in Dungeons and Dragons, where theoretically anyone can attempt any skill, does it really make sense that the dumb as bricks, you know, intelligence 6 barbarian can just get a lucky roll and remember some obscure detail about the world building? Well, you know, like it can sometimes be fun to figure out how that would make sense, but in some cases it's a little weird. So in this case, things like, you know, computers, engineering, medicine, life science, it just like the idea is unless you have studied it, it really doesn't make sense that you would know anything about it. But in any event, let's go ahead and add our +2 modifier. And so note the reason that we've got a little total here. The reason some of these are hyphens instead of numbers is because those are the trained only skills, which means you don't get a modifier at all unless you have trained in it. And so +2 to engineering, stealth, and survival. And 2. All right. And so those are the basic level things. And so for hit points, let's note just for a moment that we'll just remember that that's what we get, because we're going to add to that in a second. All right, so let's look at Yosoki here. So if you are a Yosoki, you likely talk fast and often. Language is a constantly evolving art form. These are things like based on the setting, like what are other Yosoki usually like. And I like this table that they have for each race quite a lot. It's like you likely talk fast and often, pick up new slang and alien words. You likely have seemingly boundless energy and enthusiasm. You adore technology, and you are savvy and street smart no matter where you are. But other races probably see you as manic, loud, and impetuous, value your skills with technology, but wish you reassembled. Wish you reassembled things as often as you took them apart. Appreciate the fervor with which you defend your friends. Underestimate you due to your size and childlike enthusiasm. And so those are things to just keep in mind, that like, as with any D&D or role-playing game race, like, you know, we can make a character that goes against all of those traits, right? We could, but that would make our character unusual amongst others of their race, and then you just need to take all that into account. And then so we learn here from, Yosoki tend to be 3 to 4 feet tall, humanoid rats that walk upright. Um, the term homeworld is from Akiton is the standard homeworld. So let's go ahead and just say our homeworld is Akiton. Society is chaotic and freewheeling. We're just thinking about this, friendly and talented. They integrate easily into most circumstances. And then adventurers, for Miyasoki, tend to form strong bonds with their friends and families. And that kind of, I like the idea of leaning into the that mom friend idea. But so let's look at names. Yosoki names tend to be short, and even given longer names, nicknames are as important as their actual names. And they tend to give both other Yusoki and their non-Yusoki friends monikers that refer to their personality. So let's actually bypass the name for right now, and we can kind of maybe come back and pick an appropriate name once we have the character more set. But so those are all like role play, backstory type things. So let's look back now at our so as we're picking a character, we have, as we follow their procedure here, we chose a race, and we note the starting racial hit points were 2. And the racial language, I didn't write that down, so let's get that. Sorry, I'm just scrolling. So the racial language would have been let's see. It seems like that's not something that is really obviously displayed here. We'll come back to that. So let's look at our priest concept here. So the priest theme, for starters, we get a +1 to our wisdom. So again, we're going to add this. And we're going to finalize those ability scores in a minute here. So right now we have just applied the racial changes of the strength penalty, the dex and intelligence bonuses, and now we get a +1 to wisdom for being a priest. And so as a priest, what do we get at first level? Well, we are going to choose a deity or a philosophy whose alignment is within 1 step of ours. And we can look at the list there in a little bit, and of your own, and reduce the DC of culture and mysticism checks to recall knowledge about religious traditions, religious symbols, and famous religious leaders by 5. Mysticism becomes a class skill for you, though if it's a class skill from the class you take at first level, you instead gain a +1 to mysticism checks. And that'll all make more sense when we fill out the skills in a minute. In addition, you gain the ability adjustment of +1 to wisdom at character creation, and that's what we just did. So let's write that in skill notes, some of that stuff, because that's more like something that would come up when we're doing skill checks, right? So we can say this is theme knowledge. So reduce DC by, actually let me, so -5 to DC for culture, oops, and mysticism checks about religious stuff. I think you know what, I'm going to make this one bigger too. I have not, let's see if that can make it bigger on my screen without too much disrupting the way it's going to look on this, on the, there. Yeah, I was missing a C there. There we go. So the theme knowledge is we're going to get that -5 to DC for culture and mysticism checks about religious stuff. And so as we look ahead, like what would we get? as we continue to level up, playing a priest character, this mantle of the clergy at 6th level, we would gain a rank of authority in our religion, and lay followers of the religion will have a starting attitude of helpful towards you and might provide you assistance. You gain a +2 bonus to diplomacy and intimidate checks against lay followers and lower ranking clergy. At level 12, Divine Boon, deity grants you mystic power. Choose one first level mystic spell with some connection to your deity's portfolio. And if you have levels in the mystic class, you gain one additional first level spell per day and add the chosen spell to your list. And then True Communion at 18th level, up to twice per day after performing significant action strongly aligned with your faith's dogma. You can spend 10 minutes in deep meditation or prayer to gain 1 resolve point. And this doesn't count as a resting to regain stamina points. That's kind of cool. So let's. That's our theme. We have applied the theme, right? Oops. There we go. So we chose a race, and then we chose a theme. And oh, look at that! Here's a list of all of the themes and races and classes. That's helpful. So we wrote the theme, and we applied the ability score. Now we choose a class. And so let's go look at the Mystic, or excuse me, the Solarian class, especially since you know what, actually I take that back. Before we do that, let me see if I can find the, let's see, 482 is a good, if we're going to be a priest as a background, let's figure out who are we a priest of, right? Matters. These things matter. And I'm generally thinking right now that we want I'm imagining this as a good character. So let's look at the good deities here. Let's see. We've got Hylax, who is diplomacy, first contact, friendship, and peace. That's pretty good. Iomade, honorable battle, humanity, justice, valor. Sarenrae, okay. Oh yeah, some of these are familiar. Is healing, redemption, and the sun. Oh, maybe that's fun. Just because of we're going to be playing a Solarian character, so a priest of the sun seems like that could play into it pretty nicely. Yarasi, the knowledge, mental perfection, scholarship, science. Desna, dreams, luck, stars, travelers. That's all. I also kind of like that one. And then Waden, the discovery, equality, exploration, freedom. I think the one that leaps out at me there is Sarenrae for the sun. Does anyone, anyone have thoughts on that? I don't know that it matters all that much right now, but given that it would matter a lot to the character, I feel like it's worth thinking about a little bit. All right, so let's, Prince Justin concurs, sun for a Solarian. So Sarenrae as the deity, and we're going to be, Sarenrae is a neutral good character, so let's, we're allowed to be one off from that, so we could still be, lawful good, or chaotic good, or true neutral, and theoretically still worship Sarenrae. But let's go ahead and just stick with the same alignment for now. Just realized I can put my own name here. All right. Okay. Whoops. We're scrolled way back into world, setting stuff now. So let's go back up then to, we're going to look at the Mystic class, or not the Mystic, excuse me, the Solarian class. And again, this one I might have to do a bit more reading because I haven't delved into all the details of the Solarian class so far, but we can learn about it together. Isn't that exciting? Operative. There we go. Solarian. So, stars guide the planets with gravity. discovered that a little bit. We're an agent of the cycle of this creation and destruction. Um, an enlightened warrior with the ability to manipulate the forces of the stars themselves, constantly accompanied by a mote of fundamental energy or entropy. You can shape this essence in combat to create weapons and armor of gleaming stellar light or pure devouring darkness. Whether you apprenticed to a temple, in a temple, or came to your powers through personal revelation, you recognize yourself as part of an ancient tradition, a force of preservation and annihilation. That's pretty cool. So, one of the first things we're going to note here, 7 HP. And what that matters is for level 1, we add that to our race HP, which you recall for the Yosoki was 2. So for our HP, we've got hit points, total and current. We're going to have, oops, what am I doing here? So it's 9 HP goes right here. And then so it's updated down here automatically. So as we're going and putting the Solarian stuff in, we have 9 because it's, as I mentioned, plus 2 from the Yosoki and 7 for the Solarian class. And then as we level up, gaining a new level in Solarian, we gain this 7 each time. And it's interesting that hit points are standardized based on your class. So when you level up, you get another 7 each time. And, you know, compared to Dungeons and Dragons, where it's based on your Constitution modifier, hit points in this one are not, but your stamina is. So if we look at stamina points, it's 7 plus the Constitution modifier. Our Constitution modifier right now is 0, so it would just be 7, but we just add it here right now, and so that's 7 stamina points. But then once we actually finalize our ability scores, that will update as well. So let's look at, our key ability score is charisma. So the thing that, our class abilities are going to be focused on is charisma. And so because the Yosoki didn't naturally get a bonus to charisma, when we add our points, we'll probably want to focus on that in order to try to make it an effective character. Which is not always of foremost concern. You can have a character be non-optimal and still be a lot of fun to play. Of course, I've not played Starfinder, so I don't actually know. But in theory. And then class skills. We're going to deal with skills here in a minute. But the class skills for... The way class skills work in this game is that if you have put any time and effort into a skill, into developing a skill that your character is proficiency with, is the similar mechanic in Dungeons and Dragons. As a class skill, if you have studied it, you get an extra bonus to it. And so you can also, when you level up, you have a certain number of skill ranks that you can add. And so for a Solarian, we can add 4 plus our intelligence modifier. And we're going to do that in a second to deal with the skills, because that comes after we finalize our ability scores. The armor proficiency with light armor only, and then basic and advanced melee weapons. So the weapons in this game are divided into melee weapons versus ranged weapons, right? And so melee weapons, basic and advanced, are very similar to the equivalent ideas in Dungeons and Dragons, but with ranged weapons, you have small arms, and then also two-handed weapons and so on. And so we get basic and advanced. So let's go ahead and put that. So our proficiencies, armor, light, and then weapons, basic and advanced melee, and small arms. All right, which would basically be like handguns and that sort of thing. So let's look at some of the other stuff here. This is where, these next few pages are going to come into like the subclass and what we get for each level. But we have a few things. See, we got a very complicated little table here, but here's what we need to know for the level 1 right here, is that we're going to get up here the skills. I believe that skill is going to be this 4 plus intelligence modifier. So that's going to go right there. The base attack bonus, BAB here, is +1. The fortitude save bonus is +2. The reflex save bonus is 0. And the will save bonus is 2. So saving throws in this game, compared to Dungeons and Dragons, where you can have saving throws for each of your main ability scores, in this game there's really just 3 saving throws. There's fortitude, which is based on your constitution and other class-related things, as we just saw. Reflex, which is based on your dexterity and other class-related things. And then will, which is like, wisdom and other class-related things. So our, because we have got a fortitude saving bonus of 2 here, our fortitude saving throw modifier is going to be based on that class and our constitution modifier. Excuse me, goodness, burp. All right, so we've filled out this first level up here. And what are the other things that we get as at level 1? So solar manifestation +1 AC as solar armor, and solar weapon is 1d6. We'll have to learn more about what that means. Skill adept, solar manifestation, stellar mode, stellar revelation, black hole, or supernova. Okay, so let's learn about all of this. Like I said, I'm going to have to do a little reading here because this is I hadn't read up on this class as much. So skill adept is part of the process that led you to become a Solarian. You gained additional insight and training. You choose 2 additional skills and add them to your list of class skills. Okay, so in addition to this list of class skills, we can pick any 2 other skills and also have those count as class skills, which means that if we put skill ranks into them, we get a class skill bonus. Solar manifestation. So at first level, you gain a physical manifestation of your stellar power. The base form of your solar manifestation, when not actively in use, is a mote of stellar energy slightly smaller than your fist that hovers near your head. Neat. Beyond the solar mote, your manifestation can take one of 2 additional forms, armor or a weapon. Interesting. You must pick one solar manifestation, either armor or a weapon, upon taking your first level of a Solarian. You can choose whether your solar manifestation either glows brightly with one color common to the stars, including blue, red, white, or yellow, or is the perfect darkness of a black hole. A glowing solar manifestation, regardless of its form, sheds dim light in a 20-foot radius. You can shut off the light or darkness as a standard action in order to blend in or assist in stealth. But whenever you enter a stellar mode, the glow or darkness returns immediately. Once made, these choices cannot be changed. Okay, only you can interact with your solar manifestation, whether in mote, armor, or weapon form. No other creature or effect can affect your solar manifestation in any way, including disarming or sundering it. That's pretty cool. Yeah, a little bit like an ion stone, I think, that it hovers there, but you can, I think, the character concept that I've kind of been building in my head, it seems like the light, the Sarin ray, it seems like we would want that to be like the sun, right? So maybe a yellow light one when it's in its mote form. That makes sense to me. And just in terms of, having a little sun go around with you all the time, that's fun. And then apparently it can change into either armor or a weapon, but I have to choose one. And that's where this +1 AC or 1d6 comes from, it looks like. So you can form your solar mote into a suit of armor made out of stellar energy that outlines your body. This armor appears to be made out of glowing light or solid darkness, as determined by the appearance of your solar manifestation, but it can take whatever general shape you choose, whether glowing armored plates of solidified stellar energy, form-fitting suit of crackling energy, or aura of stellar plasma. General design has no impact on its function. Okay, so you can't. So once you've selected the general design, so you don't just pick it every single time. You decide on it, and that's always what it looks like until you gain a level. The solar armor gives you +1 bonus to both kinetic armor class and your energy armor class. That's one thing we haven't really talked about yet, is that we have an armor class for energy weapons and a separate one for kinetic weapons, which would be like blunt force or piercing and slashing. I think that's pretty cool. Let's see. Optimize suggests armor because of the light armor distinction, yeah. But a team mom who can form a weapon of light is pretty cool too, yeah. I think, I was kind of leaning towards armor myself, but let's read about both. So the bonus increases to +2 at 10th level. At 5th level, you also gain energy resistance 5 while it's active. Can choose either cold resistance or fire resistance when you activate the armor, and can switch energy types as a move action. Okay, and then or if we're to do a solar weapon instead, we seize your solar mote in one hand to form a melee weapon out of stellar energy. This weapon appears to be made out of glowing light or solid darkness. Can be whatever general shape you choose. Normal melee weapons like axes, swords, and spears are most common. But other shapes such as a large rune of solar energy, so on. Let's see. General design, no impact on its function. Similar to the armor. Functions as a one-handed kinetic advanced melee weapon, and you're automatically proficient with it. At first level, choose whether it deals bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, and you can change that when you gain a level. Your solar weapon deals 1d6 plus your strength modifier. See, that's maybe one reason, since we're a Ysoki, and strength is not going to be our jam, because we're starting at a -2 deficit to begin with. Maybe the armor does still make more sense, just from an optimum standpoint. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. So look, Prince Justin has agreed, armor. So like we can imagine then that our Ysoki priest team mom Solarian here, generally speaking, has this bright, cheery little yellow sun mote hovering around her. But when stuff goes down and it's time to get real, it forms into glowing sun armor. I think that's pretty awesome. I like that a lot. Okay, and so that would give us. So we're going with the solar armor. So let's see, how does that work. So probably we would be putting that as a miscellaneous mod. It looks like. So that would be a +1 miscellaneous mod. Does that have to be only when you've got it on though, right? So let's see. Let's see. Does it say how long it takes to deploy it? Let's see. Can shut off as the light or darkness as a standard action. But when you enter the stellar mode, well, it looks like, well, let's keep reading. So the stellar mode, okay, this is our first level thing. Stellar forces you call on are attuned to either photons or gravitons. And so that sounds like it's like the sun versus the black hole thing. Put on your sun armor, Mom. Yeah, that's right. The ultimate expression of a photon power is the supernova. When all of star's energy is exerted outward, ultimate expression of a graviton power is the black hole. Skim, skim, skim. And the balance between these two opposing cosmic forces is the source of your power. And your your stellar mode represents... Okay. Given this whole Team Mom concept and the idea that this whole thing is about the balance of these two, catchphrase has got to be something like, I brought you into this universe and I can take you out of it again, right? Right? Something like that. Anyway, let's see. When in battle, you enter a state of metaphysical alignment with cosmic forces. At the start of your first turn in combat, if you are conscious, you must choose one of 3 stellar modes: graviton, photon, or unattuned. At the start of each subsequent turn of combat, you must choose to either stay in your current stellar mode or to become unattuned. If you choose to stay, you gain another attunement point for that mode. As long as you have one or two attunement points in a mode, you are attuned to that mode. Once you reach 3 attunement points in a mode, you become fully attuned in that mode. Interesting. So some of your stellar revelations are zenith revelations, which can be used only when you are fully attuned to one mode or another. Interesting. So like you have to charge up some of the abilities, it seems like. Haha, don't... That's another good one, Black Dragon. Don't make me turn the armor to dark. Okay, so let's see. When you are fully attuned, you cannot gain more points, but you stay fully attuned until combat ends, your stellar mode ends, or you become unattuned. If you choose to become unattuned, you lose all attunement points. Well, so let's figure out what those different modes mean, right? So at the end of combat, your stellar mode ends. This is a little bit like being in a rage, I think, like a barbarian rage. Okay, let's see. When you're not in combat, so you cannot enter stellar mode when you're not in combat. Interesting. Manifests only in high-stakes situations. Needs to be some risk to you for your stellar mode to activate, so you must be facing a significant enemy. So if there's any doubt about whether you're in combat or able to access your stellar mode, the GM decides. Interesting. That's kind of fun. The idea that your ability to use a power is literally dependent on how serious a threat you're facing. All right, so let's see. Graviton mode. 1 graviton attunement point, you become graviton attuned. Some of your stellar revelations. Well, we're going to see what those are in a minute, I guess. Some of them are graviton powers and get stronger if you're graviton attuned. Yeah, we picked a complicated class, I think, you guys. Okay, so photon mode seems like it's the same. And then unattuned, you gain no benefits while unattuned. So I think the key is that if you wanted to switch, you can't switch immediately from graviton to photon or vice versa. You would have to go to unattuned first and then start getting attuned to the next one if you wanted to switch in a single combat. That kind of makes sense. So stellar revelation, see, new secrets about the powers of energy, blah, 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 blah. First level, you learn the black hole and supernova stellar revelations. At second level and every 2 levels thereafter, you learn an additional one. Cannot select the same stellar revelation more than once, unless it says so. Okay, so let's look and see what some of these are. We're going to get to look at these revelations in a second, but so some of these other concepts here look like they're things that you get at higher levels. So let's look first at these first level stellar revelations we will get. We will get black hole and supernova. Black hole, when you are fully graviton attuned, which means I think you would only be able to get to it on the 3rd round of combat, it sounds like. As a standard action, you can pull any number of creatures within 20 feet of you closer. You choose which creatures are affected and which ones aren't. Each must succeed at a fortitude save or be pulled 10 feet toward you. The range of this revelation and the distance pulled increase by 5 feet at 5th level and every 4 levels thereafter. Solid objects do not block this ability. That's fun. But any creature that runs into a solid object ceases moving closer to you. Creatures moved by this ability do not provoke attacks of opportunity from this movement. After you use this revelation, you immediately become unattuned. Black hole functions as a zenith revelation for the purpose of abilities that reference them. And then supernova is when you are fully photon attuned. As a standard action, you can deal 1d6 fire damage plus 1d6 additional fire damage per Solarian level. So at level 1 it would just be 1d6, but if you were level 2, I guess it would be 2d6. Yeah, making me, Prince Justin says it makes him think of some of the powers of Mass Effect. Yeah, definitely. Let's see, so 1d6 fire damage to all creatures within 10 feet of you. Creature that succeeds at a reflex save takes half damage. At 9th level, you can increase the radius to 15 feet, 17th level at 20 feet. After you use this revelation, you become unattuned. Interesting. Okay. So, again, it looks like the way that would work in combat is at the start of your first round. Let's say we were wanting to become photon attuned, we would get 1 point for round 1, 2 points for round 2, and then in round 3 we get 3. We're fully photon attuned, and so then as a standard action we could go supernova, do this 1d6 fire damage to everyone within 10 feet. It looks like, unlike the black hole, you can't choose who. It's only, it's all creatures within 10 feet of you. And they can save to take half damage. But then after you use it, you are once again unattuned, and you would have to start charging back up. Let's see. Mother Dragon says Lord of the Rings Online has a Runekeeper class online that's kind of like that. Interesting. So it sounds like those are the things that we would get at first level, and then at second level there's more to choose from, and you get new ones as you go. And so I don't think we need to look through all of those right now. That's kind of fun. So the basic idea is that you have this armor. Let's look back here what we're doing. So it seems like, let's see. Does the armor, it seems like the armor doesn't necessarily change appearance. Like if you had chosen the light armor, just because you go to graviton mode, doesn't seem like it would change the way the armor looks. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. It seems like, yeah, the armor looks the same regardless, but you can essentially be charging up either your black hole or supernova ability in your first 3 rounds, and in the meantime you're also having use of your solar armor or solar weapon. So our character would have our sun armor giving us that AC bonus throughout, and we could be charging up over 3 rounds either the supernova or black hole, or was it called black hole? Yeah. Okay, so that is a little complicated. Let's see. Solar mode. At start of combat, gain 1 attunement point, either graviton or supernova. Or wait, no, it's graviton or photon. Mode. And then that's 1 per round. When with 3 graviton can do black hole, which is pull let's see, creatures within 20 feet of you. Creature creatures of my choice within 20 feet must succeed fort save or be pulled 10 feet closer to me. Closer. Or supernova. All creatures within 10 feet take 1d6 fire damage. Or reflex save for half. Okay, I think that covers that basic idea. And then we've already added for armor notes, +1 to KAC and EAC from solar armor. All right, so I think that covers our level 1 properties here for the class abilities and so on. And then we're now in a second here. We're going to finalize our ability scores. But let's briefly just look at what some of these other higher level things are going to be. As we saw on the score here, as we gain levels, we're going to get additional bonuses to our base attack bonus, fortitude saves, reflex saves, will saves. We're going to get additional stellar revelations that we can choose. Our solar armor is going to become even more effective. And then we're going to get sidereal influence. You can tap into stellar forces outside of battle using the properties of gravitons or photons to affect your skill. And at 3rd level, choose 2 skills from the lists below. And each time you pick skills, so you pick a skill for your, this effect. And to use it, you spend 1 minute in meditation, choose one skill or the other, and then when attempting a skill check with one of your selected skills, you roll 1d6 and add the result. Oh, that's interesting. So the idea is graviton skills include bluff, disguise, mysticism, sense motive, and stealth. Photon skills are culture, diplomacy, intimidate, medicine, and survival. And you get one of each. And the idea is if you spend 1 minute meditating on it first, you get to roll a d6 and add it to the result of your check. That's kind of cool. All right, we would get a weapon specialization as a feat for each weapon type that we have proficiency for, that we would get that at 3rd level. At 7th level, we'd get flashing strikes. Mastery of melee combat allows you to make multiple attacks more accurately. When making a full attack entirely with melee weapons, you take a -3 penalty to each attack roll instead of the normal -4 penalty. What that refers to is that one of the ways that you can fight in a certain thing is if you're not going to move, if you don't need your move action, you can do full attack, where you essentially get to attack twice, but each one you roll with a -4 penalty. It sounds like we would get to make a -3 penalty instead of -4. All right, so I think that covers the basic features here for a level 1 Solarian. So now we want to finalize our ability scores. And then we're going to pick skills. All right. Sorry, lots of scrolling here. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're following this whole thing here. So we chose a class, right? And now we're going to finalize ability scores. And so when we go to page 18 to look at that, so we started with a score of 10 in each ability, which is what it's saying right here. We add or subtract points for race. We already did that, so let's look up here. So we started with 10 in everything. We subtracted 2 from strength added 2 to dexterity, and added 2 to intelligence for our race. And then add points for the theme was +1 to our wisdom. And then for being a priest. And then we spend 10 points customizing your scores. So essentially, you can just you spend points. Now, the DC of our abilities and our various our things, like our abilities. You know, the supernova was a reflex save based thing, and the black hole was a fortitude save based thing, and the DC for those things is going to be based on our charisma. And so, you know, for the Solarian, it said charisma was the key. So we're going to click that being the key score here. And what that means is that charisma, we're probably going to want to have high charisma to make it an effective character. So we're going to take, out of all these scores, we're going to want to make charisma, you know, significant, if not the highest. And so with 10 to add, let's think about what we want to do. So we could go ahead and raise this all the way up to 18 if we want. So let's maybe do that. Let's go ahead and use 8 of our 10 to get us high charisma here. And then so what else would we want to have? Well, our ranged attack, our melee attack right now, we get a base attack bonus for being a Solarian of 1, but our strength is also low, so that's a -1. So for making melee attacks, we have no attack bonus right now. But for ranged attack, we have 2 right now because we have our base attack bonus and our dexterity modifier of +1. I don't know that we want to necessarily make, let's leave our low score low, but we have another 2 points to mess with. And like in D&D, only the even numbers make a difference. So let's maybe, you know, so our wisdom of 11 is really not getting us anything right now. So if we add that, we get a +1 to wisdom, but we're not then our other point doesn't really get us anything either. And I'm not sure that focusing on wisdom is necessarily our you know, I don't know. I'm actually torn now. Like, I don't know that focusing on wisdom. Actually, wisdom does seem like it would be relevant for our sort of character concept, right? So I'm actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take charisma down to 16. So now we've only used 6 of our points so far, and then we could go ahead and make wisdom 15. So that would be, we've made our 10, added our 10 points to wisdom and charisma there. And I kind of like that idea. So even though, you know, as we level up, we're going to continue to get to add to those things here and then. But so we can see here it has a little table that just reminds us what the bonuses are for. You know, here's what the modifier is for each score, what the different races give you, and what you get from being the various themes. And then the key score by class Solarian is charisma. And so that's why on here, on this little, our ability table over here, we have a little checkbox for charisma there. Okay, and then so that's our ability scores there. Let's make sure our hit points and stamina points and resolve points are all set properly now that we have our ability scores here. And so hit points talks about how you calculate your hit points based on your race entry, which was 2 hit points, and the number of hit points listed in your class's description, which was 7. So 9 is our answer there. Stamina points is determined by Constitution score and your class. So the Constitution score for ours was, I believe, 7 plus our Constitution modifier, which is 0. So our stamina points is going to be 7. And then your resolve points is based on half your character level rounded down, but minimum of 1, plus your modifier of your key ability score. So what that means is our key ability score is charisma. That means +3. So our resolve points is going to be 4 because that's how that works. Half, minimum of 1 based on our level, plus our charisma modifier is 4. And so if, for example, just to show the math on this sheet, if we were to change that to 18, it makes the modifier +4, and then our resolve changes to 5. And then, but we change it back because that's what we actually get. So, resolve points are used for a variety of things, including when you want to recover your stamina points by taking a 10-minute rest. You can do that by spending 1 resolve point. But also resolve is used if you are reduced to 0 hit points and you are dying. You spend 1 resolve point per turn in order to not die. But you can also, I believe, spend 2 resolve points at once to stabilize. I think that's right. I'd have to look it up, but we can leave it there for now. But in the meantime, we've got those. So we've finalized our ability scores here. Next is we're applying our class, which is basically the various base attack bonuses and saving throw bonuses. So we kind of already did that. We did that one already. So that was adding all of these things up here, and then adding our different ability modifiers and so on, and everything that we've got. And now we're doing assigned skill ranks and choosing feats. And so what that means is that we're going to choose a feat here in a second. But skill ranks, if we look back up to our class, let's go back over to our Solarian class. All right, so 4 plus intelligence modifier is how many skill ranks we can apply. So for our intelligence modifier is 1, so we can apply 5 skill ranks per level. And in fact, it actually looks like that 0 out of 5 is already there. It doesn't let us. Let's hang on. I'm just testing something. Okay, so it's just keeping a count. So I don't think acrobatics is the one. So basically, what we're looking for here is we've already got this +2 from the Yosokis, but our skills: acrobatics, athletics, bluff, computers, culture, diplomacy, disguise, engineering, intimidate, life science, medicine, mysticism, perception, physical science, piloting, profession, which is interesting. Let me come back to that. Sense motive, sleight of hand, stealth, and survival. Those are the skills that we're choosing from here. Profession is interesting because it's essentially kind of a fill-in-the-blank skill where you can essentially choose something, some like specialized field where you can just pick what it actually means, like something that wouldn't automatically be included elsewhere, but some specialized field of knowledge you can choose to be extra proficient in. I think that's a neat idea. But so we have 5 ranks that we can apply, and the basic idea of the class skill level, which includes acrobatics, athletics, diplomacy, intimidate, mysticism, perception, physical science, profession, sense motive, and stealth. What we get to do is we also any ranks that we put into any of those, we also get an additional +3 to. So what that means is, for example, let's think about our character and think that maybe it makes sense for our character, our team mom, to want to be able to be good at sense motive, right? That seems like makes sense, that you would want to be able to read read people's body language to understand if they're sad and maybe need a hug, right? So sense motive is a class skill. And I believe the way this works when we're applying skills is that at level 1, you can't put more than one rank into any given score. Let's double check that. Let's see. I think let's see. I believe that's the case. So what it means is we couldn't take all 5 and put them into one thing. I think that that's the case. But what we can do, say, is if we want to put one rank into sense motive, we put it there. And this is a class skill for us because it's listed right here. We check that box. And so that means we also get the class skill bonus. And it's based on our mod is +2. That means overall as a total we get a +6 to sense motive. And now we've picked 1 for our level, and so now we just do that for 4 more. But there was something also for priest, I believe. Let me double check what that was. You know, for our priest theme. We have the theme knowledge here. So in addition to this idea of reducing the DC of culture and mysticism checks by 5, mysticism becomes a class skill for you, which means that if we put a rank into it, we also get the class skill bonus. And so, but it says, but if it's a class skill from the class you take at first level, you instead gain a +1 bonus to mysticism checks, which means I think it means that you don't double the +3 bonus. So what that means is, let's go back to our Solarian page. I'm in wrong. I scrolled too far. Oops. All right, we're getting close, guys. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're in our Solarian here now. So mysticism, we see, is one of the class skills here already. So what that means is that because our priest thing would make it a class skill even if it wasn't there, let's go ahead and put a rank there and make it a class skill, because it would be anyway. But because of our priest background, we also get an additional +1. All right, so that means mysticism, we get 7. And that makes sense because we're a priest, right? So our priest background, our whole Solarian thing, it makes sense that mysticism would be one of the things that we're strongest in. So we have 2 now, 2 ranks, and we want 3 more. So let's think, what other skills would come in really handy for this character concept? Any suggestions? Nice bit of skills synergy. Yeah, definitely. So let's think. We could maybe so each skill obviously is based on a different modifier, and so because we've also got a high charisma modifier, we could maybe look at putting a rank in, say, diplomacy. And diplomacy is a class skill for us. Oops. Yeah. Yeah, diplomacy is one. Prince Justin just suggested that even as I was saying it, I think. We joked earlier about the idea of using the mom threats of I put you in, I can take you back out again. So do you think intimidate is one that we would want to use? I think that's kind of a fun idea. So maybe we put one there too. Oops. And okay, so now we've got 4 out of 5. We need one more. Wait, intimidate was just double check. Yes, intimidate was in our class skill here. Um, just from an optimization standpoint, we can select something that's not a class skill, but we're not gaining as much modifier. So that's a mechanical thing rather than a role play thing, but it's still worth considering. So the other class skills that we could choose that we haven't picked already, acrobatics and athletics. I don't know. Given we have this agile, Yosoki character who's not super strong, acrobatics might make sense. We diplomacy, intimidate, mysticism we already chose. We could do perception, physical science. Profession would be we could decide something that would be either a charisma, an intelligence, or a wisdom based skill that makes sense. We could pick one. Stealth. You know what? I think stealth is kind of fun because of the idea that again the Team Mom thing of like she knows everything. She's got eyes in the back of her head. She can be everywhere. That idea is kind of fun. So maybe stealth. Not to mention the fact that we also already got the Yosoki bonus to that. So we're going to get a nice bonus there. So even though our dex modifier is only +1, we get another 2 for being a Yosoki, and then having it be a class skill and our rank. So looks like our key skills here that we've got diplomacy, intimidate, mysticism, and stealth, and then sense motive is almost as good. That's a pretty good skill breakdown, I think. All right, so the next thing that we do before we buy equipment and finalize everything is we're going to pick a feat, and there's just a lot to choose from. But so there's a big long list of feats that we're going to pick from here, but not all of them are available. Some of them have prerequisites. So we've got a long list here. This table continues in here, but not all of those are available. So I think because that's probably going to be pretty small on the screen, and I think some of it's actually cut off for you just based on the way I've got my little thumbnail here. I'm going to read through the ones that are that we theoretically could take because we meet the requirements for. All right. And so feats are interesting in this game. You get one at level 1, but then as you level up, you get a new feat, I think, every other level. But so, let's see, the ones that we could pick now. Don't have that. We didn't put anything into engineering. So, it's actually, before we proceed, it occurs to me here that as a Yosoki, we would naturally get a +2 to engineering, but if we don't put any ranks into it at all, we essentially still can't make those checks, and so that +2 is kind of wasted. So I wonder if maybe we should take one of these ones that we picked here, so that could be made more effective there. But then again, Solarian, I don't think engineering wasn't one of the class skills. So it's always a dilemma, right? Yeah, engineering is not a class skill there, so that's a toss-up. Maybe what we should just keep in mind is that for a future level up, if we ever pick and put a rank into engineering, we would later get it because you can't get you don't get the class skill bonus more than once. So I'm kind of I'm torn now because I like engineering characters, but I think let's leave the skills where they are for now. So scrolling through and looking through these different, I'm actually looking at the hard copy just for ease of reading this small text. we could choose a special weapon proficiency, um, which would be, um, we have basic melee weapon and small arm proficiency, so we could do special weapon proficiency if we wanted to have a more advanced weapon. We could do blind fight, which is better at allowing you to avoid missing when firing from concealment. Bodyguard. Okay. Bodyguard is add a +2 bonus to an adjacent ally's AC as a reaction. We already talked about picking a Team Mom character, right? Like, how can we not do that, right? I think that seems like my first thought is to do that. But let's briefly look through what the other choices might be, just because something else might seem just as good. But that's one that we could pick. Okay, we have a wisdom level of 15, but nope, that one doesn't work. See, like I said, a lot of these are designed for higher level characters, so we don't have everything. There's coordinated shot, which we can do because we have a base attack bonus of +1, and that would be allies gain a +1 bonus to ranged attacks against foes you threaten. And since we're kind of looking like we're probably going to be a ranged character, since we have higher dexterity than strength, that could be a good one to coordinate shot, make it easier to hit enemies when we're doing that. So that's one that could work. We could also do deadly aim, which is take a -2 penalty to weapon attacks to deal extra damage. So that would be if we thought we were pretty likely to hit, and we want to do more damage. That's a potentially useful one. It doesn't necessarily go into the theme necessarily, but it doesn't have to. Die Hard, which is you can spend resolve points to stabilize and stay in the fight in the same round. And then base reflex. Let's see. Our base reflex. No, that one doesn't work. Diversion, which is use bluff to create a distraction so that your allies can hide. That could be one, a good one. And drag down. When you are tripped, you can attempt to trip an adjacent foe. That's kind of funny. We could do far shot, which is reduced penalty due to range increments. Fleet, which just increases your base speed. And then there's one feat here that is very specifically only if you are playing the four-armed race, because it requires 4 arms. Great fortitude just is a bonus to fortitude saves. Grenade proficiency. That's kind of fun to think about, the Team Mom with grenade proficiency, but harm undead. No, that's you'd need to be a mystic level for that. Improved combat maneuver would be a +4 bonus to perform one type of combat maneuver. And you know what? One of the combat maneuvers that you can do is disarm. That could be fun. Let's see. Where was it? So one of the combat maneuvers you can choose from are Bull Rush, Dirty Trick, Disarm, Grapple, Reposition, Sunder, or Trip. If you take this feat, you get a +4 bonus to your attack roll to resolve that combat maneuver. So disarming seems like it could be fun. And then also one of the things that if you have that one, and if you take the disarm one, you can later get a second feat, which is pull the pin, which is perform a disarm to activate a foe's grenade. That's kind of fun. Where does the combat maneuver, like how doing a disarm, like what it's based on? Let's find that. Just because, oops. Oh, no, hang on. There we go. Um, where's my search? There we go. All right. Let's see. When you um, all right. Um, let's see. I'm trying to find out, like, does that have to be um, all right. I want to find the place where it describes combat maneuvers, so I can determine if that's, because if it's automatically going to be a strength-based thing, then that's probably not something our character would be super good at. Um, combat maneuvers 246. All right. Okay, combat maneuvers. There's a standard action. You can attempt one of the following combat maneuvers. For each maneuver, choose an opponent within your reach, including your weapon's reach if applicable, and make a melee attack roll. See, it does have to be melee attack. So, disarm, yeah. I kind of like that, but it seems like it wouldn't be super optimal for our character. So anyway, let's keep looking at these feats. Um, We could do improved feint, which is use bluff to feint as a move option. Improved initiative, improved unarmed strike. Iron will, which is bonus to will saves. Jet dash, move faster when running. Double height and distance when jumping. That's kind of neat. Light, we could get. We have light armor proficiency, so we could get a heavy armor proficiency. But oh no, we'd need a higher strength for that. Okay. Lightning reflexes, +2 to reflex saves. You know what? I feel like that's the one, right? Like the whole thing of, catching the kid who's about to, I don't know. I'm torn. Let's see. Let's keep looking. That one's pretty good though. Lunge is a type of attack, which we can't do. We could get a minor psychic power. Because we have the charisma of that, and we would be able to cast a 0-level spell like a cantrip as a spell-like ability 3 times per day. That's pretty good. Mobility. I don't think. Oh, never mind. We don't have the dexterity for that. All right. Multi-weapon fighting. No. Opening volley. Opening volley would be +2 bonus to a melee attack against a target you damaged with a ranged attack. That could be good. Quick draw. Quick draw is just a fun thing. We could do that one. Draw a weapon as a swift action. Small arm proficiency, skill synergy. Skill synergy just would let us take 2 new skills and make them class skills, or a +2 insight bonus. So, like, if we wanted, we could use our feat to do that, to make the engineering a class skill if we wanted to do that. But we can think about that in the future. So, spry cover. You know what? There's a lot to choose from here, but I don't think I've seen any that really leapt out at me as being. Let's read what the details of Bodyguard is. As a reaction, when an adjacent ally is attacked, you can grant that ally +2 circumstance bonus to its AC against the attack. If you do so, you take a -2 penalty to your own armor class until the beginning of your next turn. I think that still sounds like the one that I'm thinking of. So we've got feats and proficiencies. So let's go ahead and just pick that one now. Bodyguard. Uh, so what we can do is use reaction, grant ally +2 to AC against an attack until next turn. Um, take -2 to AC, which makes sense because you know, the if our character's solar armor is like part of our thing, and the team mom thing of like, yeah, like protecting your fellows, that seems like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, so that's the feat. So if we go back and we're looking at our, you know, our process here of so we have assigned skill ranks and choose feats. Now we buy equipment, and so at first level we have 1,000 credits to spend on armor, weapons, and other supplies. And so we're going to go look at that in a little bit here, and then we'll finish up all those other things. And then, you know, one of the things we haven't touched today so far is you can build starships, and there are starship character sheets too, which could be fun, but maybe not for today. So let's see, and so looks like our character speed is 30 feet, which might as well just go ahead and put there. Oops, I don't know why that's I don't know why there's 2 entries for it there, but also, you know, we've kind of been talking about her as a she already, so I'll just fill that in. But let's get some equipment. Let's start with armor, just because we're, you know, we've got that solar armor which gives us a bonus, but what should she be wearing on top of that, right? All right, so let's look at armor. There's lots of things to choose from here. Solarian weapon crystals. That's what I was recalling, there being a thing about Solarian weapon crystals, but I don't remember, like, Solarian weapon crystals. Solarian weapon crystal adds damage to Solarian's solar weapon. Can place the crystal inside his moat as a standard action. Oh, okay, but that would be if we were using our solar weapon instead of solar armor, but I bet you there might be crystals for the armor as well. All right. It has weapons first, but I wanted to look at armor first. That's interesting that the is there not an equivalent Solarian armor crystals? I want to just look back at that thing, just because it makes. Does it? Okay. I'm just wanting to make sure that. Just to see if it does anything when you have. Looks like no. Like the Solarian weapon crystal is only if you're using the solar weapon, which is fine. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it might be that our character would want to develop some melee stuff just as things go, but at least to start with, let's we've kind of already made our decision. So we have 1,000 credits to work with. So, and we can only do light armor, and also we're a level 1 character, so we can probably only really handle a level 1 items. But I think theoretically you could get a higher level item, but with only 1,000 credits to work with, we'd probably not manage to get very much. So it looks like the 3 light armor pieces of light armor that are level 1 that we could look at. There's a station wear flight suit, which is +0 bonus to EAC, +1 bonus to KAC, energy AC versus kinetic AC, with a maximum dex bonus of +6, which is moot for us because we only have a +1 dex bonus. There's this is the cheapest one though. There's no armor check penalty, there's no speed adjustment, there's no upgrade slots. And then the bulk is L, which means that it's a light bulk. We'll talk about bulk in a second. But so then there's SDEX Suit 1, which would be 410 credits. Only a +1 bonus to KAC. There's an armor check penalty of -1, which I think means that there are certain things that, certain types of skills that you take penalties to when you're wearing that type of armor, meaning it slows you down a little bit. I think that's the case. Like AC penalty. I don't. Yeah, okay, hang on. Let's read this. So armor check penalty is you must take a penalty to most strength and dexterity based skill checks equal to this number. Okay. So that seems like a bad thing to me. To strengthen dexterity checks to lose. But for 410, but it does have 2 upgrade slots. So I think that's the primary selling point here, why that one's more expensive even though it seems less beneficial. But the second skin here is 250, +1 to EAC, +2 to KAC. The dexterity bonus, like I said, we don't have, our modifier is already below that, so it doesn't matter. There's no armor check penalty, no speed adjustment, and there's 1 upgrade slot, and it's light. So I think that one makes the most sense. So we're going to spend 250 of our 1,000 on second skin armor. So let's go ahead and put it in our equipment list. Armor. It's a level 1, and the bulk is L. So what that means is, let's talk a little bit about bulk. Is something that is got an L bulk, what that means is that 10 of those things would equal something that has the bulk of 1. And the amount of bulk that you can carry is based on your strength score. So our strength is pretty low, it's just 8. And so half of your strength score is 4, and that's the total amount of bulk you can carry without being, and still be unencumbered. And so you can see that it has down here, carrying capacity. Unencumbered has to stay below 4. Encumbered would be 5, which I believe has like a speed penalty. And then overburdened is like a more dramatic penalty. But a second skin already pretty light. And so let's add the appropriate second skin parameters to our little armor here. Second skin. It's a level 1. The EAC bonus is a +1. KAC bonus is a +2. Maximum dexterity bonus is 5. And the bulk is L. AC penalty is nothing. Speed adjustment is nothing. And the upgrade slots is 1. Alright, so now let's go back up and look at our AC. So we have a +1 bonus to both for our dexterity mod, and then a +1 and a +2 for our second skin armor that we just added, and then now we have our solar armor +1 for each. So my energy armor class is 13, kinetic armor class is KAC. Alright, and then the AC versus combat maneuvers is 22, which I think means if someone is trying to do a combat maneuver on me, that's what they would have to get. Which is pretty good. Okay. And I think that deals with that does our armor right now. So let's pick a weapon, especially since we might want to get, since we're not doing a solar melee, we might want to have a basic melee and a basic ranged weapon. And we have proficiency for both basic melee and advanced melee. But advanced melee is going to be more expensive. Let's see. Advanced melee weapons. Let's see if we want to look at like what are level 1 advanced melee weapons. Well, there's an assault hammer, a longsword, star knife, tactical, tacklash standard, which is kind of neat. Analog and disarm, non-lethal, reach, trip. It can do lots of things. I kind of like that. Tacklash standard. Let's see more about what that does. It would do 1d4 slashing damage. It's light. It would cost 240 credits. Let's look at what the various properties. So it has the properties of analog, disarm, non-lethal, reach, and trip. So let's see what these were. Those do. All right, so it's analog, which means there's no advanced electronics, computer systems, or electrical power sources. So it's immune to abilities that target technology. And it was also had disarm, which is you can attempt a disarm combat maneuver with it, and you get a +2 to that. So that's pretty good. What were the other ones? Reach, which was only melee weapons that have the reach can give you 10 feet of reach instead of 5. So that's good too. And then trip, which is another, you can attempt to trip combat maneuver while wielding the weapon with +2. It just reminds me, I want to look at those combat maneuvers again just to see, like, you don't have to, like, you can do, yeah, there's no rule for any of those. It's just what you have to do. And it's like, because our KAC is, or, you know, our strength is not super great, a melee attack roll is generally always going to be strength, I think. Or is there some of these that make it more like a finesse weapon in D&D? Sorry, we've got lots of stuff here. Is one of these tacklash? Does it? I don't think we have a picture of the tacklash, but I think it's kind of like a whip, right? That's what we're talking about. Let's see. Okay, hang on. Sorry, there's just so much to go through here. All right. Okay, so I think that's the one that I'm thinking I want to go with. But not, oh, and non-lethal, which means I definitely like that too. That's the other item, the just, you know, function that I didn't read, which says deals non-lethal damage. So basically you can knock someone unconscious but not kill them. There's actually ways, there's mechanics in this game for if you want to try to kill someone anyway with something that would normally be non-lethal, you can try, but it's like harder. Okay. What I'm trying to get a sense of is if like is a melee attack always strength based, or could it sometimes be dex based? Well, you know what? Let's look it up. Melee attack roll. Okay, you know what? This is probably going to need to be in tactical rules. All right, I hope this is still interesting for you guys, because it's, you know, it's definitely a lot more reading and going through these things, but it's all pretty exciting, I think, ultimately, to imagine the character. We've gotten through some of the more glamorous parts of that, I think, and that's why, let's see, ranged melee attack roll, you use a melee weapon, your attack bonus is your attack bonus from melee attack is equal to your base attack bonus plus your strength modifier. So that seems pretty straightforward. And then a ranged attack. Yeah, so unlike the idea of the finesse weapons, that's what I was kind of getting at. But let's just go ahead and give our character here attack lash. Let's get that, and then give her a basic ranged weapon as well, from small arms, and then see what we have left for other things. So we're going to add attack lash, standard, which is advanced melee, and that's a level 1, and it's a light, and then we're going to put that up here in our weapon. It's a level 1. There's no additional attack bonus. The damage is 1d4 slashing. The critical, there's no special bonus for that. The range is 10 feet because it's reach. The type, I think advanced. Ammo, none. And special is analog, disarm, non-lethal, trip. And then, is there one more? Reach. That gets super tiny on there. Alright. So let's get a small arms weapon on here too. So we're looking for level 1 small arms. So we could get flame gun, survival. Well, okay, let's also remember we've now spent 490 credits, 250 for the second skin armor, and then 240 for the attack lash. So you could get an azimuth laser pistol standard for 350, which would do 1d4 flame, a range of 80 feet. A critical burn 1d4, takes 20 charge. It can hold 20 charges. It's light. That's a pretty standard thing. There's a semi-auto pistol, tactical, which I don't know, appeals less to me in this context. But it would do 1d6 piercing damage. So it's worth noting that the 1d4 flame damage would be applied against an enemy's EAC, but a 1d6 piercing would be applied against their KAC, and that's why it might matter sometimes what you're using. You might theoretically want to have weapons that could do either. But especially because our attack lash is going to be against KAC, it makes sense to maybe have our ranged weapon be against the EAC. Let's see, there's a pulse caster pistol, which is non-lethal. It's like a little zap gun. There's a needler pistol, which does piercing damage like needles. Injection DC +2. Oh, so you could maybe like give them an injection of something? That's interesting. I want to know what that does. Injection. This weapon or its ammunition can be filled with a drug and injury poison. Oh, like you can make it like a interesting. Yeah, that's kind of fun. I don't know that it necessarily makes sense. Let's just go ahead and do a standard, oops, these are long arms. Let's just do a standard laser pistol as azimuth. Laser pistol azimuth. That's a level 1. And attack bonus, there's no additional attack bonus to it. The damage is 1d4 fire. The critical is 1d4 burn, 1d4. Well, let's double check what that does. 80 feet is Small arms, 20 charges. And then the special, there's no special for that one. Let's look up what that burn does in the critical, though. The critical hit effects burn. The target gains the burning condition. Okay, yeah. So on page 273, we can see what that does. If you are burning, you are on fire. As long as you have this condition, at the start of your turn, you take a listed amount of damage. So as long as so it sets you on fire, essentially. You're going to take 1d4 fire damage for as long as you're burning. For the end of each round you're burning, you can attempt a reflex saving throw to remove the condition. Okay, yeah, so like if you get a critical hit with this azimuth laser rifle, you set them on fire. That's pretty good. Okay, and so that one costs, the small arms laser pistol azimuth was 350. So would be 540, 840, meaning we have 160 left to buy like another thing. Let's go ahead and make sure we've got our laser pistol. Azimuth. Small arms. Okay, and that one was also a level 1, and I believe also light. Yep. Alright, so far not really carrying anything of significant bulk, so no worrying about that. But, so now that we've got armor and weapons picked out, we've still got 160 credits that we can spend on stuff. So for one, we could buy some batteries, which are like spare charges for our weapon. So maybe it makes sense to do that a little bit to get some, have a little bit of extra. So we could spend 60 on one extra battery, which would be another 20 charges for our gun. So let's keep that in mind, but let's not buy it until we look at what are some of our other choices, right? So some of the other types of equipment other than weapons and armor, you can get body augmentations like cybernetics and everything. And those are obviously range all, so the sorts of level 1 things that you could get a vocal modulator, which goes in your throat for 125 credits. And I think that what that lets you do is basically change your voice to sound like other voices. Yeah, it reshape your voice box along with, so change the pitch, timbre, and tone of your voice. You can more easily imitate accents or pronounce alien languages. When using disguise to change your appearance, you gain a +2 circumstance. That's cool, but I don't know that it necessarily fits with our character a whole lot. A respiration compounder lets you breathe underwater or not underwater, but it lets you hold your breath twice as long, which could be useful, but we can't afford it anymore with what we've already bought. So I don't know that we need any of these mods right now. There's computers that let you do various, gives you benefits on various skill checks and so on. And so we could buy a tier 1 computer for 50 and then get modules to do various things. I don't want to get too much into everything that the computers can do right now, but there's some useful stuff in there, and we can just imagine getting various other things on there that allow you to have secure data and spell chips, upgrades, various things. I think I haven't looked too much into everything that computers can do, but our character so far doesn't seem super computer focused, so I think maybe we don't need to follow too much up on that. But other tech items that we can get: comm units, detonators, fire extinguishers. Let's see, look at that. Cable lines, comm units. You can get a level 1 comm unit pretty inexpensive for 7. Makes sense to maybe have one of those. And then, let's see, locks I don't know that we have any need for that necessarily. You could get a basic med kit for 100 which could be useful. Or you could just get like med patches, um, uh, which, you know, bandages. Those seem like they would be useful to have a little bit of that. Portable lights, but we have dark vision, so maybe we don't need a light. Plus, we've also got our little solar moat, right? Um, so I don't know that we need an extra light. We can get some binders. Let's see, we got signal jammers, detonators, fire extinguishers, toolkits. I think maybe it makes sense to get, I don't know, did we end up getting any, like, we don't have, you know, we're not trained in medicine or anything. And I think if you're not trained, then the med kit doesn't necessarily help you super much. But how about this? Let's get an extra battery for our gun, which was 60. Where was, oh, you know what? The other thing we forgot is we have an upgrade slot on our armor. But it looks like, so we could get tensile reinforcement for the armor for 150. That would, you know, make it tougher. Radiation buffer, quick release sheath, and infrared sensors are other level 1 armor upgrades we could have done. But I don't think we need to do that. Where was the I'm trying to remember where the batteries were. I think they were in the all right, yeah, so let's get a battery and a comm unit and a basic computer. How about that? That all makes sense to me. You know, as basic things that we could imagine this character having some use for. And then let's see, we can actually, if we're spending 50 on a tier 1 computer, then we can also maybe, if we're spending 60 on a battery, let's see where, now I've lost track of where that was. So I think you know, we get the gist of it here. So let's imagine, we can, yeah, I don't want to go into too much of that. So we can imagine that we're saving a little bit of extra money on the, ooh, there's magic items too. Clear spindle, but yeah, we can't afford any of that. We could get a spell gem. I think you might need to. Where was the battery? All right, I've lost. Maybe it was at the end of armor, or at the end of the weapons. All right, yeah, there they were. Okay, so we're gonna get an extra battery. So that leaves us with 100. And that's a level 1 thing. And it's got 20 charges on it, and it's a negligible bulk. All right. And then you can buy, you know, charging, you can, it's like a thing in the game, just like you might need to buy food or a place to stay or fuel or whatever, you have to buy charging for your batteries. And then we're going to get a basic tier 1 computer, which doesn't seem like it does. If the size, let's see, computers can be very small. At basic, computer has bulk equal to its tier squared. So a tier 1 computer has, it's a level 1 thing, and so it would be a 1 bulk. So we're still well within our range. And then comm unit, which was going to be 7. Which was level 1. And it's light. All right, capacity 80. Okay, so that would be 110, 117. So we'd have, out of our original 1,000, we have, so, so we had 160. We had, so we have 37 credits left over. No, 33. I think I did the math right. All right, so that's all of our equipment. So let's do our last few little things here. One, we never really went back to languages, but that's fine. But let's as a finishing touch, let's pick a character name, right? So we've got a pretty good sense of our character's personality now and the sorts of things that they do and are good at. So let's look at the way Yosoki characters are named and pick one that seems like it fits. So here's our Yosoki characters. Yosoki names tend to be short, and so some sample Yosoki names include Bena, Kopasina, Kors, Goba, Ketch, Kib, Lolo, Nick, Quig, Resk, Sim, and Twick. I don't know. I think I don't know. Let's see. Oh, Farah. Farah. Yeah, I like it. Prince Justin suggests Farah. That works. All right. So this is Farah, the Yosoki priest Solarian, who is good at diplomacy and intimidation and mysticism and sensing motive and stealth. She has cheery, sunny armor, but she can turn it on to, whoop some ass too. She shoot you with a laser rifle or hit you with her whip. That all sounds pretty fun to me. So, anyway, thank you guys for tagging along as we kind of dig through this character creation process. It's a learning process, but I always like the character creation is always fun. I hope you guys had fun too. Prince Justin says he did. That's good. So Starfinder is definitely a system that I feel like I want to continue to explore. But there's always so much and yet never enough time for role-playing games. But in the meantime, this was fun. I hope it was useful and or interesting to any of you watching. And in the meantime, should be back on Wednesday for more So Many Levels. So I'll talk to you all later. Hope you have a good rest of your Labor Day.